Hey, what's up, everyone? Jonathan Bailor back with another SANE show, and very excited. We actually discovered a bunch of shows that I recorded by myself as a little bonus experimentation right before the Calorie Myth book came out on January of 2014. We just remembered we had these shows and we never aired them. So we're going to air them now. Exciting. So what will follow in this episode is one of these previously hidden pre-Calorie Myth shows. So a little bit dated, but still valuable. I hope you enjoy it. And remember, stay sane. Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everybody, Jonathan Bailor back with another Smarter Science of Slim show. Happy as always to be with you today, sharing some simple, smart science and freeing us as always from these nefarious calorie myths that make us think that our biology is broken and that unless we spend our valuable time and effort doing math every time we eat or every time we move our body, that somehow it's going to get off track, which is just silly. That thinking and that message to us that we're somehow inadequate and need to intervene by default, that is the thinking that is off track. So let's talk about just how off track that thinking is. You may not know this because very few people do, based on what we hear in popular culture, which is, of course, just eat less and exercise more and eat whatever you want as long as you don't eat too much of it, because as long as you keep your calorie count down and your number of calories burnt through exercise up, you will stay slim and healthy. Correct? No, as evidenced by the 70% of our population who that hasn't worked for. And let's put some more numbers behind that, shall we? Some definitive data to silence all of those people who would tell us that no, starvation and stair steppers are the way to go. You just need to try harder. False. And in fact, don't take my word for it. Let's look at a 3-year study at the International Journal of Obesity and Related Metabolic Disorders. Just a quick digression here. The name of this publication is the International Journal of Obesity and Related Metabolic Disorders. AKA, there is an entire journal that is dealing with obesity and related metabolic disorders. It's not Cosmo. It's not Men's Health. It is written by actual experts for actual experts, and that's why it's confusing. And it's very difficult to get our hands on, but these are the resources in which we find this little-known science. But anyway, actual experts, I just love them. I just love to give them shout-outs every time I can. People that wear lab coats rather than people that wear spandex, and I'm just so honored to be able to share their work. Anyway, speaking of awesome work to share, so 3-year study in the International Journal of Obesity and Related Metabolic Disorders that looked at 854 subjects from the age of 20 to the age of 45. And this study was designed to look at the long-term efficacy of eating less and exercising more to maintain weight loss. Because remember, it's about maintaining weight loss and improving health that we're actually after, right? We've all lost weight. That's not the problem. The problem isn't losing the weight. It's keeping it off, maintaining our health, and enjoying our lives, right? I mean, we can lose weight by cutting off our legs, but that is not something we should do because it certainly doesn't further the rest of our goals. It doesn't empower us. It doesn't help us rock our mission. Whereas eating more and exercising less but smarter does. But we'll get to that later. Let's get back to this study of nearly 900 people aged 20 to 45. And the researchers looked at them and concluded, quoting verbatim from the actual experts in the study, less than 1 in 20, or 4.6%, lost and maintained weight successfully. Again, less than 1 in 20, 4.6%, lost and maintained weight successfully. Obviously, a 4.6% success rate is extremely low, and in and of itself should have been a headline, considering that each and every day we're all bombarded and told that we're inadequate because eating less and exercising more isn't working for us, while 95.4% of the population is in the same boat as us. Seriously, if anything else in the world failed for 95.4% of the people that used it, would we really say that the people using it were at fault and not the approach? But again, I digress. So a 4.6% success rate, meaning that 95.4% of the people who try to eat less and exercise more do not end up losing weight and maintaining it successfully. That is obviously atrocious, but let me put into perspective just how terrible that success rate is. So another study was done, this time by the American Cancer Society, to look at the long-term success rates of individuals who attempted to quit smoking cold turkey. Very, very interesting study because tobacco is the third most addictive substance in the world. It's trailing only heroin and cocaine. So we're talking some heavy hitters here. So what is the long-term success rate for giving up the third most addictive substance in the world, a substance which is only exceeded in its addictive properties by cocaine and heroin? What is the long-term success rate of quitting that cold turkey? No help, no counseling, no patch, no pills, no powders, no gums, no nothing. The long-term success rate is 5.5%, which is low, very low, as we would expect it to be, as we know how hard it is to quit smoking with all the help in the world, let alone cold turkey. But 5.5% is still higher than 4.6%. So we are more likely to give up the third most addictive substance in the world, cold turkey, than we are to achieve our long-term health and fitness goals via what we are told all day, every day, and what I was taught when I was a personal trainer. Obviously, that is unacceptable. So the question then becomes, how can this even continue to happen? Like, how can something that is less effective or that puts us in a position of failure more frequently than quitting the third most addictive substance in the world without any help, how can it continue to live on? Well, we have to cite our friend, the law of large numbers here. The law of large numbers is very, very handy. It basically just says, if you can get a big enough sample size, you can create useful data for just about anything. So, for example, if you want to show that eating less and exercising more works, just get 100 million people to try to do it. And at the end of the day, you will have 4.6 million success stories. And that's, wow, 4.6 million people who eat less and exercise more and have success, who tell us we should just skip lunch in addition to skipping breakfast because it worked for them, and that if 90 minutes on the treadmill doesn't seem to be working, we just need to bump it up to 2 hours per day, and that maybe we too could be one of that 4.6 million. But here's the problem. In a sample size of 100 million people, which I didn't just pull out of thin air, that's at any given point in time in the country, our country, the United States, there's about 100 million of us who are attempting to do eat less and exercise more in some way, shape, or form. Basically, all popular diets, not all of them, but many of them, are just different ways to eat less and exercise more. And at any point in time, 100 million of us are attempting to do that. And at any point in time, we can turn on the TV or we can open our favorite magazine and we can find success stories. And those aren't the only success stories we'll see. There's going to be millions because remember, folks, the law of large numbers is here at play. You take 100 million people, You tell them to do something that only works for 4.6% of them, you still got 4.6 million success stories. But the question, the much more important question, the question that we're here to answer, the question that I've committed my life to, and the question that more importantly, tens of thousands of actual experts, researchers, endocrinologists, neurobiologists, gastroenterologists around the world have dedicated their lives to, is to finding a solution, an approach, a technique, a program, a lifestyle that will work for the other 95.4% of us. So in the States, the other 95.4 million of us. Great, 4.6 million. I'm glad eating less and exercising more works for you. That's fabulous, and I mean that. I'm not being sarcastic, because all we want, and when I say we, I mean individuals who are in the healthcare field. We want people to be healthy and happy and fit. And if for 4.6 million of us, eating less and exercising more gets the job done, then awesome, check mark next to 4.6% of us. But there's this big empty hole next to the other 95.4% of us, to the other 95.4 million of us that we have to solve. And we can't say try harder. So the law of large numbers can be very frustrating, because it can make us think that we're at fault, whereas in reality, we have 95.4 million friends who are experiencing the exact same thing. So don't let those numbers scare you. In fact, if you want some numbers to scare you, this is kind of a sad direction to take the podcast, but while we're talking about large numbers, there are some meaningful large numbers that we should be aware of. For example, the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute did a $115 million study of 12,866 men with high cholesterol. So talk about some large numbers. Nearly $120 million to perform this study, and done on about 13,000 people with high cholesterol. That study found that the group that ate a quote-unquote healthy, low-fat, low-protein, high-starch diet, aka what we're all told to do, My Plate Food Guide Pyramid, you're familiar with it. To do that for 7 years, so they did that for 7 years, had a 7.1 increase in heart disease deaths. This is large numbers, $120 million study with nearly 13,000 men with high cholesterol who, when they do what we're all told to do, eat in the way that is supposedly healthy, for 7 years had a 7.1% increase in heart disease deaths. Or let's consider another large number. This one comes from the National Institutes of Health, who did a nearly $700 million study. $700 million study. That is a big study of nearly 49,000 women for 8 freaking years. Quoting directly from the researchers: dietary intervention that reduced total fat intake did not significantly reduce the risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, or cardiovascular disease. One more time, National Institutes of Health. We're talking large numbers, friends. We're talking $700 million study. We're talking nearly 49,000 women for 8 years. Quoting, dietary intervention that reduced total fat intake did not significantly reduce the risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, or cardiovascular disease. Let's keep going. 6 years, Malmo Diet and Cancer Study of 28,098 folks, quoting directly from the actual experts, the researchers, not the back of a cereal box. Individuals receiving more than 30% of their total daily energy from fat did not have increased mortality. Current dietary guidelines concerning fat intake are thus generally not supported by our data. Shall we keep going? So the Nurses' Health Study, the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, and the Nurses' Health Study 2, 3 just seminal studies that tracked about 300,000 people. 300,000 people. None of these studies showed total fat intake. And we keep highlighting fat here because, again, just like we're told, eat less and exercise more, we're told, again, don't eat anything that has fat in it because fat has more calories and carbohydrates or protein, so you're sure going to have to exercise more, or just you can't eat it. It's got the calories, so you got to stay away from it and don't enjoy all those natural foods that may contain some fat because it's going to kill you, which is false. 300,000 people across these brilliant studies showed us that none of these studies showed that total fat intake increased the risk of heart disease. The only conclusive finding around fat was that eating more unsaturated fats actually lowers our risk of heart disease. So, for example, if we were to eat more fat, but smarter, aka whole food, natural, healthy fats, we would actually lower our risk of heart disease. Oh, but we can't do that because what about the calories? Well, maybe it's a myth. Maybe we've been fed a load of calorie myths, and maybe that's why it fails 95.4% of the time. So from the Harvard School of Public Health, intake of unsaturated fats was inversely associated with the risk of heart attacks in response to these studies. No shortage of data, no shortage of large numbers, and no shortage of just nonsense. While we're talking about the Harvard School of Public Health, most people don't realize just how different what the Harvard School of Public Health says about nutrition is from what we're told is healthy. And these are pretty smart folks over at the Harvard School of Public Health. In fact, the chair of the Department of Nutrition at the Harvard School of Public Health has been quoted as saying, this is verbatim here, folks, the chair of the Department of Nutrition at the Harvard School of Public Health says, quoting, "The USDA pyramid is wrong. It was built on shaky scientific ground and has been steadily eroded by new research from all parts of the globe. Some recommendations on diet and nutrition are misguided because they are based on inadequate or incomplete information. Not the pyramid. It is wrong because it ignores the evidence that has been carefully assembled over the past 40 years. That's shocking, friends. And it's shocking that in the face of all of this data and all this brilliant research, we're continued to be told an approach that doesn't work and has been proven to fail more frequently than when individuals try to quit smoking cold turkey. It's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. And we've got to empower ourselves with these facts. And we have to know, we always have to have the ability to pop back. Stephen Covey, who's one of my favorite teachers of all time, I had the amazing pleasure of meeting the man in person before he left this earth. And if you haven't read his books, especially The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I would highly recommend you do so. He makes this point so eloquently, which is that between stimulus or between something that happens to us and our response to what happens to us, there's this space. And there's this moment of choice that we have. And in that space, the quality of our lives is determined. Why do I come to you every week? And actually much more than that. If you check out any of the other things my team is doing on the web and out there in the mainstream media, or check out the book, The Calorie Myth, why we are so passionate about this mission and getting this information to you is because the stimulus you're going to continue to get for the foreseeable future is going to be these calorie myths. It's going to be people telling you that you're broken, that you're inadequate by default, and that you need to eat less and exercise more. And that if that doesn't work, there's something wrong with you. That's the stimulus. And there's nothing we can do about that because there's a heck of a lot of money to be made off of fat, sick, and sad people, right? If you have a broken down car, it's much more profitable to a mechanic than if you have a car that's just humming right along and never needs any intervention. Broken people are much more profitable than happy people. So there's very little financial incentive to help us heal ourselves. But I digress. So the stimulus is going to continue to be this nonsense, this disproven calorie myth laden nonsense. But between stimulus and response, there's this space. And if we can fill that space with this smarter science of slim and with this hugely empowering research from actual experts that has taken place over the past 40 years, if we can fill our brains with enough of the facts of fat loss and these proven truths around long-term health, well, that space between stimulus and response will grow. It will grow not only because we have this knowledge in our brain, but as we start to apply this knowledge, we will simply become healthier, and our stress levels will fall, and our brains will be clearer. And if you want to have more choice over how you react to the world, having a healthy body and a healthy brain, low stress levels, and a brain full of simple, proven, empowering scientific knowledge, that space between stimulus and response quickly becomes an ocean. And people can try to feed us these calorie myths and this inadequacy nonsense all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. And it will just slide right off us like water off a duck's back, because we know the truth. We know that we're brilliant, we're beautiful, we're far from broken. Our bodies don't want to be fat. They don't want to be sick. And if we simply feed them the natural, nutrient-dense whole foods that we ate before we had any of these problems, and we move our bodies in a fun, safe, healthy, and empowering way, not for hours on a human hamster wheel, that we can achieve something that seems almost too good to be true, but something that all of our ancestors achieved. And that was simple slimness and health, and a life that's focused on living our mission and doing the things that we're called to do as individuals and that we're put on this earth to do, rather than counting calories, which is certainly not what any of us were put here to do. So don't let the law of large numbers trip you up. The facts are, for 95.4% of us, these calorie myths are counterproductive. Of course, if you're one of the fortunate 4.6%, or you know people that are, give them a hug, and give them another hug from me, because they've found a path that works for them, and that's awesome. And thank God that now there's a path for the rest of us, for the other 95.4% of us, for the other 95 plus million of us. Remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. I'm Jonathan Bailor. Chat with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at carriebrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's BAILOR group.com.